Are you looking for better health but feel a little overwhelmed with it all, thinking there might be something missing? Maybe you're looking for action steps to take that get to the real root of the issue and actually move the needle in your health. Here on the Cornerstone Integrative Healing Podcast, we will share the link between our physical, emotional, and spiritual health, all while pointing you to the one and only true healer, Jesus. I'm Kari, Coody, your co-host. As a pharmacist turned integrative health practitioner, I spent 20 years in the traditional healthcare world, and it was definitely long enough to know there's a huge need for preventative healthcare and holistic healing. I'm excited to have conversations around these topics with my co-host and friend, Jenn.
Hey, I'm Jenn Patriarca. God gave me this desire to help others with natural healing a long time ago. With more than 20 years of experience in the functional nutrition field, God decided it was time to join forces. Kari and I are colleagues turned faithful partners in this mission God has put on our hearts. A mission for true healing, one that encompasses an integrative approach. With Jesus taking the lead, our aim is to point you toward Him as we help you peel back the layers. Through conversations, you can expect straightforward information on holistic health topics that include physical, emotional, and spiritual action steps that will create real change in your health, and honest conversations around the ups and downs that can come with healing. It's time to have joy in your life again and the energy to do all that God has called you to. Be sure to subscribe for new episodes every Monday.
Hello and welcome back into the podcast. It's Kari here, and I have a special guest with me, Hannah, one of our practitioners that works on our team together. She is going to be sharing with us today a little bit about her journey with trying to conceive and pregnancy and postpartum. And I'm just really looking forward to this conversation because the Lord is all woven in. And I think it's just such a perfect example of how we can prepare and we can do our part, but ultimately it's up to the Lord. So Hannah, do you want to just jump in wherever you feel like would be a great place to start?
Yes, let's do it. So I guess the best place to start would be right before getting pregnant, kind of where I was at health-wise. So right after college, I had lost my period for about a year, and this was definitely one of the side effects of my eating disorder. And so by the grace of God, I had healed my relationship with food and then got the opportunity to meet and work with you. Because, once I had healed my relationship with food, I was still struggling a lot with physical symptoms, my gut issues, and a host of other problems. And so,
hold on just a second. I think it is helpful sometimes to give somewhat of a timeline and just, I don't know, just as far as the time that passed. So could you do that just for, where you're coming from as far as with the eating disorder and healing from that, and then beginning to work with me?
Oh, yes. Okay. So my eating disorder, how long it lasted, or kind of?
Yeah, just maybe the time frame of
okay.
Coming out of that and healing your relationship with food, and that, just because, those things don't happen overnight. So I just think it's good to give context sometimes, because when we say these things, it's oh, it just happened,
Right. And you're so true. This is not an overnight thing. Yes. Okay. So the progression into me having an eating disorder, I think, started from a really young age all the way to college. And then because it had spiraled so much out of control, that's kind of when I got help, which was, I want to say, in 2020, the year of COVID.
Okay.
And yeah, I got to the point where I was no longer functioning anymore, because I think that's the thing with eating disorders is you can do a lot of it happens behind closed doors, and many people don't see what's going on. But yeah, mine was, it was too hard to hide anymore, if that makes sense. And so, yeah, I started working with someone in 2020, and then I kid you not, it was only a couple months into working with her that there was already just so much growth by the grace of God in healing my relationship with food. And then honestly, after intentionally working on that intense healing part of healing from the eating disorder, I want to say I got my period back after losing it for a year within 4 months.
Okay. Yeah. And
So,
so that happened. And then I know that we met, I think it was like 2 years ago. So that would have been in like 2022-ish.
yes, I think it might have been, yes, I think you're right. Yeah.
Somewhere around there. Yeah. So
Yes.
so that time passed. And then I know that we even did more work on food, I remember, just like, and I say that to say it's so much of a process, especially if
Yeah.
you're coming from that background of really having a distorted view of food.
Yeah.
But you go ahead and finish what you were saying.
Yeah. And so, yeah, once you and I started working together, you definitely did help me. It's just so sweet how the Lord works. You definitely continued, you picked up right where my last practitioner left off in terms of helping me heal food intolerances I had, gut dysfunction, liver, hormone imbalance, all the things that happen, when you've just been so deficient for so long, and living in such a high state of stress 24/7. So yeah. And then after, I have to say, when you and I were working together, one of the main goals was for me to get off a medication that was not safe for pregnancy. And I was told that I had to be on that medication for the rest of my life. And so I was just praying that working with you would really, really help. And yeah, I mean, little did I know you helped me with a lot more than just getting off,
God
a
had a bigger,
medication.
yeah, he had a lot more planned, right?
He always does.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
But
we did talk more specifically about that in a previous podcast episode that I cannot remember which episode. It was in season 1. I just can't remember the exact episode number, but I will definitely put a link to that in the show notes in the description of this video, so that if you do want to just continue to learn more about that specific part of her journey, then yeah, we have a whole other podcast episode on that.
Awesome. Yeah. So once oh goodness, Kari, I think it was about, I want to say maybe 7 months after working with you, 8 months, when the Lord impressed upon our hearts, my husband and I, to start trying. By the grace of God, we did get pregnant the first try. And, to come from not having a period for over a year and seeing my labs and seeing how depleted I was, it's just so easy to feel discouraged with seeing how long and how far you have to go. But it's like, this really is in God's hands. And
it's so funny though. I just remember when we were having those conversations, I almost wanted to be like, it could happen when you first try, or just, I didn't mean it from like a negative standpoint. I just wanted to, just encourage you, but I didn't I just felt like maybe I shouldn't say this. And then you told me you got pregnant. I was like, wow. Okay.
Right. I know.
Yeah.
It's honestly amazing. It's such a miracle. But okay. So my husband and I are pregnant. And at this point I had, come so far in my healing journey that I really just felt the most comfortable going the more natural route. And yeah, I really did not want to be another pregnant woman on the conveyor belt of the traditional standard of care. And so since I knew I was not a high-risk pregnancy, my husband and I wanted a more personal and intimate experience with everything, which led us to a midwife. And we ultimately knew this was what was best for us during pregnancy, which I know is not the case for everyone, but for us, we knew this was the best choice. And so besides, I mean, you're feeling everything for the first time with your first. And so it was such a beautiful experience. The first trimester was a little challenging, but it was nothing that you're just so grateful, that you have this life growing inside of you and that your body can do this. And so during my pregnancy, I took a whole foods approach to my prenatals, which was so fun. And it helped me so much. And then I thankfully also too did not have any pregnancy complications. So I had occasional heartburn here and there, but you know, I'm just so thankful, honestly, for the pregnancy experience. And I think a large part of that was, of course, the Lord, but also the preparation beforehand to really address some deficiencies and hormone imbalance and things like that. So
minerals especially are so huge going into pregnancy because, your baby just takes so much, like to make another human. I mean, it's just a lot. I mean, it's a lot of work on your body and, they take a lot from you. And if you're already depleted, that can really leave you super struggling after pregnancy a lot. I know you're probably going to talk about that, but
yeah,
it just makes me think about that, but also about just your pregnancy experience. Everybody is so different, I mean, truly, like, and I don't say that in like a way of, well, they're, what worked for Hannah wouldn't work for you. No, not saying that. I'm just saying, I just think sometimes we look at one person's journey and it's like, why doesn't mine look like that?
yes.
And it just, it's just a comparison trap. So, I think too, just going back, preparing as much as you can is really important, but also just realizing that a lot of things are out of our control.
Yes.
But while we were on this topic, I don't know if you want to talk any more about, or just, briefly mention about how you did approach to prenatal, because that is a question that you get quite often, and that we have gotten from clients that, want to start thinking about conceiving. And so they're wondering what they should be taking. I don't know if you have any thoughts to add on that, because I know that is a question that we get.
Yes. Oh, I love
I know this could
question
probably be
so
a whole other
much.
episode. So
Yes. So, oftentimes I like to think of remembering why we take supplements to begin with. And you really can't out supplement a good diet. There's just no way to do that, And so I think a lot of people tend to think, okay, if I'm taking my prenatal, then I can kind of do whatever I want in the way of nutrition or preparing for pregnancy with minerals and whatnot. And it's just not true. I think also too, there's a lack of informed consent when it comes to understanding what's in a prenatal, because, and I'm not anti-prenatals. It's more of, we really want to coach up and prepare the body to do, because the body is what does the work for pregnancy. Your prenatal can't do it, on its own. And so a lot of what's in prenatals are synthetic vitamins that really do alter and affect your minerals and hormone imbalances and whatnot. And so I do think it's just super good to be educated about that. But, where I come from is just, I really want to encourage and help others take a whole food approach, because it's really not hard. It's really not hard at all. And it's super nourishing. And it's so important because, you are setting the foundation for not just yourself and this baby, but for your family and postpartum. And again, also taking your prenatal, it's just not a cure-all for the things that happen during pregnancy, the complications that come from a poor diet, And so I think I'll just share this one little study. There was this comparison of two mothers' placentas, and one of the placentas, they opened up after birth and whatnot and saw that it had completely calcified. So it was completely white on the inside and no nutrients were getting to the baby anymore after 32 weeks. And that baby ended up having to be preterm, and the mother was on, a more vegetarian and vegan diet. And then they compared it to a placenta that had a more ancestral diet where it was just this vibrant red. It honestly had like an overflowing amount of nutrients. And, it's not all about nutrition by any means, but I just think that's a huge contributor to having I guess, a less stressful pregnancy and birth, if that makes sense.
And really postpartum. I think sometimes, that's a lot of times when you do see the effects of not necessarily putting some of these things into place,
Mhm.
is afterwards, and women really struggling, in various ways. So it all goes together. And I know that sometimes when you're pregnant, that's really what you think about the most, right? Which is normal. However, there is, it's like once you've had the baby, you're like, wow, there's basically another trimester, So just,
Yes, I mean, it is, yeah, we're in this for the long run. This is,
yeah, right.
and so,
So yeah.
yeah,
I love that. I love that explanation. So hopefully that helps. And again, I mean, we would love it. Really, this is a great episode just to again get to know Hannah more, get to know her story more. But we hope this gives you questions. So we want your questions. If you have something that would be good to go in more depth in, or that you have a question of something we said, you can always reach out to us, and we'll have all those things in the show notes. But yeah, so that's kind of a little bit about your pregnancy. So what about talk a little bit about the more natural birth that you were planning
Mhm.
and all that. How'd that go?
Yes. Okay. So we were planning to do a home birth. And it was just overall such a great, we were so excited. We were so excited.
Yeah.
But once I had gone over 40 weeks and still was feeling good, baby was doing good. I mean, we were monitored by our midwife often. And she'd been doing this for over 20 years. So yeah, but it just got to a point during the labor where I had been in prodromal labor for about 3 to 4 days. And then once I went into active labor, things were starting off really, really well. It was so exciting. We were like, oh, this baby's coming like in just a couple hours. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden after about 35 hours, I had continued to stay at a 6.
Mm-hmm.
And, we had done so many things at home to try and get the baby to move. And I guess just have the labor progress. But,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what we tried, and my midwife, who had over 20 years of experience, she tried everything in her book
Right.
too, but it just, yeah, our baby was not budging. And so it was clear transferring was the best decision for
Mm-hmm.
us. Which was really, really hard and honestly a little bit scary. I mean, we had
Yeah.
prepped for the case of transferring to the hospital, but from the beginning, I knew God was going to use however this birth unfolded to deepen my trust in Him.
Yeah.
And it makes me think of Romans 8:28 when it talks about all things work together for good of those that love God and to them who are called according to His purposes. And so
Mm-hmm.
it was really hard, but it's so necessary for me to lay down, to be surrendered going into parenthood. I think that was
Yeah.
a really big,
Not even
something
just the
noble.
birth, but
Right.
all a parent, I mean, it's that's just the beginning.
Yes.
Right. That's just the
Yes.
start.
Yes. And yeah, it was just crazy because I went from having the most hands-off pregnancy with no complications to the most medicalized birth. Because once we got to the hospital, I mean, just so much had transpassed to where the C-section was the best choice. And, I thought for a second there going into the home birth that, again, just I had done all the preparation that I could possibly think of, took the courses, went to the classes,
Right.
and educated myself. But it was so humbling to realize this is still so out of my control.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was just so life-changing for me. And I think, again, a lesson I needed to learn going
Right.
into
Yeah.
parenthood. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that though.
So
We all learn our lessons somewhere, hopefully, right? I mean, it's just, yeah, we always have to be surrender. We can do the best that we can, but we are not in control,
yeah.
ultimately.
Yeah. Amen. And so I would say overall the preparation during pregnancy, physically, balancing blood sugar, supporting thyroid, replenishing minerals, emotionally addressing any fears that came up, and then spiritually renewing my mind in truth constantly. really did help me, I think, recover well from the surgery and the interventions that had to happen, you
Yeah.
know?
Mhm.
And so it was encouraging to know nothing that was done in vain, even if the desired outcome did not happen, you
Yeah.
know? And so just learning like preparing for this baby like is unto the Lord. It is not unto my desired
Yeah.
outcome, if that makes sense.
And I mean, as somebody that, we both want to take the natural route, but sometimes it's
Mhm.
just not in the cards to be
Yes.
able to. And I think
Mhm.
that it's humbling to
Mhm.
realize that, that the hospital and the medicines are there for a reason, and they
Yeah.
do serve a purpose. Um, and I just think that was, it's a good lesson for us all. Like doesn't necessarily have to be one or the other. I mean, you can have
Yeah.
your plans and you can do what, but the thing is, like you were saying, all that you did helped in regardless of what had to be done in the end, and so it all works
Right.
together. It really does.
So good.
Yeah.
Yes. And yeah, his ways are greater than ours. It
Right.
really just comes down to,
And
yeah.
anywhere we have pride, he wants that gone. And so pride can come with our health. 100%. We can make it an idol. We can make doing things like more of a natural way an idol. Like there's just so many there's so many levels and layers to that.
Yeah.
But I'm so thankful that he helps us to realize that not it's not either or, it can be both, and that can both be good because he's in control.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
amen. So good. That's so good. And so honestly, like to pull it all together, I think that experience has really just encouraged me and made me more excited to work with pregnancy, those who want to conceive and are trying to conceive, and those who are pregnant and postpartum, because yeah, I mean, to help create resiliency to stress, but deepen your trust in the Lord with your health is probably like, I don't know. I think that's like, it would be such an honor to do. It's
Yes.
so impactful. And,
Mhm.
pregnancy really does reveal where you are lacking in both.
Yeah.
So,
That's true. I mean, and it's not only physical, like you mentioned, emotionally and spiritually as well. Like it all goes together. And,
it does.
and obviously, like just talking about physically, we want to help our kids have the, best start to life that we can. But
Yeah.
that's not only physically, it's also emotionally and spiritually too. Like
Mhm.
it can't, it shouldn't be just one, right? It should be all.
Yes. So good.
Yeah. Oh man, like I just love the way that even after pregnancy, like when sorry, after your birth, when we finally did were able to talk and kept in touch and whatnot. I mean, you had trouble with mastitis, you had to take antibiotics, which was very
Mhm.
humbling. It's just like you desperately don't want to do this thing, but it's like it's the best. Like there's no other choice really. Like it's just what needs to happen. But I just remember encouraging you with like it's not the end of the world, and I know that
Yes.
a lot of our listeners really do want to do things as naturally as they can, but
Yeah.
you also have to use obviously you have to walk with the Holy Spirit to know like discernment with these things. But I just think there's so much fear around having to
Mhm.
do things like maybe take a medication or an antibiotic or
Yeah.
go the more conventional route when you like know the I guess dangers or risks associated with that. But I
Mhm.
just think sometimes it's like the Lord's just asking us to trust, and He's going to, right. The body can heal, right? The body can,
Yes.
I get that there are some negative things associated with something like an antibiotic or like taking medications. However, if we just trust that the Lord's going to renew our body and our mind and our spirit, He'll do it. But a lot of times it's the fear that we have associated with it that actually causes more damage than taking the
Right.
medication. I mean, I think
Oh,
it's really important to think about that, because like, if you are somebody that is considering getting pregnant and just thinking like, I want to do this the most natural way, I think that's awesome. I mean, right. We have that same, thought process too, but I just think you can't be obsessive about it because it can become an idol quickly, and that's not good either. So I think that's just important to keep in mind. And nobody's perfect. It doesn't matter if you have the most perfect pregnancy and home birth and whatever. This world is toxic in ways, right? I mean, it's like we can do all that we can, but we have to trust. That's really what I'm trying to drive home, because I just see so many people that are obsessive about these things. And I mean, I personally used to be as well, at different times in my journey, but thank goodness the Lord just showed me that that's not good either. That's not what we're called to do as Christians either. That's a sin if we put things before the Lord.
Amen.
Yeah. Sorry, I got off on a tangent there. I just think it's important because, especially a first-time mom, it's like you just hyper obsess over everything because, I mean, it's all new, and oftentimes you're younger and you don't have as much life experience. It's like all the things. But if I had one piece of advice, it would really be that you can't over obsess about things with yourself or your kids. Like, you can do the best you can, and you can trust the Lord for the rest and enjoy it. Right.
Amen.
I think that's so important. Even where I'm at, with my kids are older, they're 9 and almost 12. But I mean, I still have to keep reminding myself of that. Right. I mean, it's like now they're making their own decisions. Now they're, out of the house more, and I'm just trying to teach them, still things about, maybe it's nutrition or maybe it's how to take care of their body. But I still have to realize it's not up to me ultimately. Like, I'm just trying to just steward well and trust the Lord for the rest. So I think that's just a lifelong lesson that I wish I would have learned earlier. So
yes, we are not in control. Oh my goodness.
Yes. Yeah. If you hear anything, if you don't hear anything else, hear that. Okay.
Yes. And I do have to say, you were so instrumental in, I think, keeping my eyes fixed on the Lord. And I'm so grateful for that because, I was so concerned, like you mentioned, about the long-term effect of some of these decisions. And you said, Hannah, you have to make a decision for the now. We do not know what's going to happen in the future. And if something comes up, we will address it then. But you have to trust that this is the best thing you can do right now, and really give it up to the Lord. And I'm like, oh, of course,
I know, but it's like, especially when you're all hormonal, I mean, it's just like everything is kind of just magnified almost. And so, it's just important to keep things in perspective, I think.
So true. Yes. And so,
but, just talking about how, Hannah mentioned, that's where her heart is to work with women as they do think about preparing for pregnancy, walking through them during pregnancy and after, obviously along with a midwife or a physician or whatever. I think that is just something that, we might not have time to talk about right now, but just in thinking about how do you put a team together? That's like a whole other question. So maybe we'll have another episode. We'll keep talking about this for sure. But that's another thing that I feel like you did a really great job at. But as far as what role Hannah and then our team could provide is just like our heart is to truly walk with you and just keep helping you fix your eyes on him. Like that is, that's our ultimate goal. And just to support you with some of the knowledge that we have as far as, nutrition goes, and just trying to help you address some of these things before you start trying even. And then, during, while you're pregnant, and then after. I think that, it's just, you do need a team. Oftentimes we just think about one person, but honestly, I know Hannah, like I said, you put together, it was probably 2 or 3 people, right? Because you had the midwife, and then maybe you can speak to it really briefly if you don't mind, because I think that's important for people to keep in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I had, my midwife, I had a, home birth instructor who put on this Christian, Caitlin Fusco, if you haven't heard of her, put on just this amazing class to help prepare you. And then I know I had you obviously for other questions related to, just questions that came up. Yeah, I feel like you guys were my three mains. And then there was a lactation consultant along the road too, and a holistic chiropractor, but
yeah, but I mean, it's good to note all of those things because, I mean, while that might not be the right fit for you, I do think that it's really important. I mean, even if you are going to go the more conventional route and you're seeing, somebody that maybe you are going to have birth in a hospital and that kind of scenario, it's still good to have somebody to help you in the other area as far as like maybe more holistically. Like you can totally put those together, and everybody.
Yes.
It's just so different what your needs are and what you want out of, what you want your birth experience to be like. And so I just think that's important to note, but we would love to help you. I'm going to make sure that our website's in the show notes. And like I said, if you have any specific questions, we do inquiry calls. So if it's a thing where you want to just have some time with Hannah on the phone to ask questions, we would love that. And it's an honor, truly an honor to walk beside women in any area of their life, but specifically in this time frame, like if, just time of your life, your childbearing years, like it's just really special and we don't take that lightly. So we hope that, just Hannah sharing her story and her heart really helps you to see, where she's at. Hopefully it gives you encouragement really wherever you're at to do all you can. Yes. But ultimately trust the Lord with the outcome. And thanks for joining us. Thanks for sharing, Hannah. You're just so open and honest. So thankful to have you as a friend and a colleague and all the things. Really blessed.
Thank you, Kari.
Thanks for joining us, guys. We'll see you on the next episode.